I've now been sitting in front of the camera for a solid 15 minutes because I don't know how to start this video. This is a little bit different. Anybody who's followed along, anybody who knows me probably knows that I don't take things in life very seriously, ever. I figure if you can't make something into a joke, it's not worth being a part of. But things have been different recently. I haven't picked up this camera or filmed a video in like 3 weeks, and there's a good, bad reason for that. And I've been going back and forth for weeks now, trying to decide if I wanted to make this video. And I'm still not even sure if I do. But there's this idea that's been in my head for weeks now that I need to get out, I need to share, and I'd like to talk about. And video, for me, is the greatest format to do that. So the idea that I've had in my head is this whole idea of like tomorrow and waiting for tomorrow to do things. I made an entire video probably a year ago about being a procrastinator, about always being somebody who waits and waits and waits and waits, and then finally does something. Finally does that thing. Finally stops procrastinating and does the thing. And I basically live my entire life by the motto, it can wait until tomorrow. And something happened recently that changed my entire perspective on waiting for tomorrow. It changed my entire perspective on the idea of there's time, there's tomorrow, you can wait. So in order to talk about that, I have to tell you what happened. So I started these videos a couple of years ago to share our story, our life, mostly to have sort of like a place to house our home movies that are a well-edited version of our life. You know, like you used to have the dad that would sit there with the video camera and you have the reel-to-reel up in the attic. I wanted something a little bit more than that. So I started picking up the camera and making these videos, and they got progressively different and evolved over the years, and I love having this record of our lives. I love having the ability to go back and see all the things we were going through. Mostly fun. This, not fun. So 2 weeks ago from the time that I'm filming this video, when everything went crazy and changed, my mom passed away. She died 2 weeks ago now, and that has been probably the single hardest thing that I've ever gone through in my life to date. We don't have a lot of family. It's just my dad, my mom, my brother, I have 2 sisters, and my kids. That's our family. We don't have other relatives. Anybody outside there has passed away, but I was never close with them. So this is, in almost 40 years of being alive, the first real experience with death and loss that I've gone through. And it's like exactly what I expected it to be. It's rough, like really crazy. You have this whirlwind of like, you're okay, and then this crash or this snap of a memory that totally changes the way you're feeling. It's so crazy. I count myself very lucky that in 40 years, I've never had to deal with this. This is rough. I don't even know what this video is gonna be, but at the heart of it is a message of there is not always a tomorrow to wait for. So, like, do things now. And I'm trying to change everything about the way that I live my life and start living for now and not for tomorrow, because sometimes there's no tomorrow. And when there's no tomorrow, that like really sucks. And the main idea behind this like there's no tomorrow is, for a long time, like, we all get busy. We have the kids going to school and then coming home. After we moved into this house, the whole way that we live our lives had to change because Amanda started a job at a new school and took the kids with them. So they're all a half an hour away. They get to leave later in the morning, but they get home later in the afternoon. It's different. And during this period of adjusting, of getting used to it, I stopped calling my mom so often. We weren't talking as much. I always, every single day, had the thought that I should call her. And when she got home from work, I was gonna call her. And then like 7 or 8 o'clock rolls around and I'm like, crap, forgot to do that. I'll do it tomorrow. And that progressively went on. And every now and then I'd call and we'd talk for a little while and it was great. We'd text, but there was always that idea that there'd be time. There was time. There was time tomorrow. There was time in the future. There was a future, and now there's not. And that's really hard. So this video is about tomorrow and about my mom. I count myself extremely lucky because we had the opportunity to have my parents come down. We got an Airbnb in Kissimmee, and they were here for Christmas for a week, which was fantastic. I'm glad that they got to do that because we moved away and we haven't seen them in a long time. So I'm glad that they got to come down. I'm glad we got to see them. I just wish that I could go back and not always wait for tomorrow. Let me tell you a little bit about my mom. My mom was the pastor of a laughably small church up in a very small town in northern New Hampshire. Laughably small, just meaning that the town was really small and the people who still go to church are the old school people. So there was like 10 people that were older that would go to church and listen to my mom's message every single week that would most often be some anecdotal story about me or my brother or my sisters, some way to connect life with a message about God. She was wonderful. She'd always send me her sermons for every single week and we'd get to read them. She was probably the person that encompassed the idea of unconditional love because she loved me, and man, did I spend my life trying to drive her completely crazy, as most children do, but maybe I took it up to a level that was a little bit more intense than some other people. I don't know. Maybe. Possibly. Most likely. One thing that always drove my mother crazy was that I called her by her first name, Lisa. I would always call her Lisa because that's her name. I didn't call her Mom, I called her Lisa. And she would always say, one day you're not going to be able to call me Mom, and you're going to wish you could. I can tell you right now with 100% certainty that if she were still here, I would still call her Lisa because that's who I am. Our favorite story to tell about how crazy I drove my mother was when I was young. I don't know what I did, but I drove her to the point of throwing a plant pot in my direction and breaking it because she was so frustrated. There was no chance of injury or harm. She just threw a plant pot because she was so upset at something I'd done. I was young, I was so young, but I did that. I'm sharing these stories now because at the service that we had to fly back to Massachusetts and then drive 3.5 hours up to northern New Hampshire to get to the service to be with my family at a house that we own up in the mountains. And during that time, we were grieving, but we had the service and all of her friends came to the church that she pastored and shared memories and stories, and Amanda wrote a poem, and I wasn't able to get up and say anything. There was just no way that I could do that. It wasn't going to be possible. It was not possible for me to stand up and probably utter more than 3 or 4 words. So I didn't. But through this medium, through these videos, I can share the stories. I can remember them later. It's something that I think is going to be very important. These aren't the videos that I typically make. This is very hard for me to make. But the idea behind it, I think, is really important. And I need to remember it for myself. I need to remember that there's not always a tomorrow, and the best time to do something is right now. There's no reason not to do it right now. It's insane. I think the one thing that's really hit me hardest is the finality of death. like that last closed door where, like, no takebacks, no restarts, no redos. It's just over. And the life that you lived and the things that you've done are it. No changing, no coming back from. It's just over. So don't wait till tomorrow. Do things today. Future Chris, this is a message for you too. The videos will be back to normal. I don't take things seriously next time. If you've watched this far, if you've been watching and following along, all the people that support us and me in these videos, thank you. I really appreciate all the comments, all the kindness, all of the amazing people in this community. You're amazing. And if I haven't told you enough how amazing you are, you are. See you next time.